there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. GM Potter here. Welcome to my channel where I talk about books and bookish things. I upload on Thursdays and Tuesdays, and today I have a little bit of an older book for you, and that is Conclave by Robert Harris. Let's get into it. So coming in first with the book blurb, it's rather short, and that is, "The Pope is dead. Behind the locked doors of the Sistine Chapel, 118 cardinals from all over the globe will cast their votes in the world's most selective election. They are holy men. But they have ambition, and they have rivals. Over the next 72 hours, one of them will become the most powerful spiritual figure on earth." Which, that is a heck of a blurb. This book came out in 2016, but since we just got a new pope, fairly recently, Pope Leo, I thought it would be a fun one to read. There was a movie that came out. I haven't been able to find a place to stream the movie for not paying money. So I'm not going to be talking about the movie. I'm just going to be talking about the book. If the movie is fantastic and I have to watch it and it's utterly amazing, please let me know, because this book was pretty fantastic and amazing. And if the movie holds up to the book, I might have to knuckle down and pay for it. But right now I'm not. So this is just a review for the book. So I have in my notes, "The Pope is dead. What next?" And there's a quote in there that talking about the Pope. What he lost faith in was the church big C. This book goes out of its way to humanize figures that are larger than life, that are beyond earthly measure, as it were. I was raised Catholic, and I was not explicitly taught, but it was always kind of a thing that the cardinals and the bishops and the archbishops and the bishops were these larger than life, that they are beyond reproach, that the Pope especially is never wrong, he is infallible by the grace of God alone. Regardless of what your religion is, that is the gist that I got from being raised in that religion. But this book goes out of its way to humanize these 118 cardinals. It depicts them as nervous and neurotic and politically motivated and conniving and proud and ostentatious and humble and frail and strong and hurt and contentious and all the things that make us human. All of the oxymorons and the turn of phrase that make a person a person. And I just thought that was really interesting, that I hadn't seen that done in a book before. Not one that takes itself seriously. I read the Da Vinci Code, and I tried to get through Angels and Demons, and I just didn't care enough to finish it. That was on my DNF list. I think last year. I think I tried to read that one last year. I didn't even get far enough along to even put it on my DNF list, because I just don't like Dan Brown's writing. No shade to Dan Brown, it's just not my cup of tea. In those, even when the religious figure is the bad guy, he's still written in such a way that you expect him to be beyond reproach. Like there's still an air of infallibility, of ineffableness to these characters in other things that I've read, featuring cardinals and bishops and popes, and that they're written as non-human, that they're heavenly and divine, not of earth, that they're not men, that they're godly. And I really appreciated the humanization of this. And it makes a very interesting, this is a tiny bit in the book, but it makes a very interesting observation about the use of the Latin language, or rather the disuse of the Latin language in Catholicism. That until Vatican II, Catholic masses were said in Latin. Until the 20th century, all Catholic masses were said in Latin. And as a result, all of the priests and the deacons and the bishops and the archbishops and the cardinals and obviously the Pope spoke Latin. And they're talking about that they've got these 118 cardinals, and they're in this big, cafeteria type space. They're having lunch, and they're at tables, and it's observed that they're clustered by native language. That you've got all the English speakers over here, and you've got all the Spanish speakers over there, and you've got all the African delegates here because they have a common language, but you've got some of them over here with the French speakers, and you've got like that they're segregated, that they're self-segregated by language group. And it's most being older cardinals are like, hey, I remember pre-Vatican II, I'm that old, that you wouldn't have seen this self-segregation, that people would have just sat anywhere and talked to everybody. Whereas you have to get an interpreter, you have to find a language that's maybe not your native language to speak so that you can talk to each other. And there's one scene where our main character, the dean of the College of Cardinals, he has to essentially interrogate a nun, and he can't do it himself. He's got to rely on the Mother Superior, who speaks the language that this nun speaks, and talking to and going back and forth, and they have to find a common language and like all of this, that, and the other. And it's like, it makes a good point that when everybody spoke Latin, everybody spoke Latin. And it's like, I'm not advocating for the Church Big C to go back to speaking Latin. I just think that that's an interesting observation. And it got me thinking that isn't everybody in the Big C Church speaking Latin? Isn't that getting a little close to the Tower of Babel? Just a little bit, that you're unifying under a language when God scrambled the languages? Like, it just struck me as interesting, is all. And the dean of the College of Cardinals, in his homily after the death of the Pope, essentially says, let us pray for a Pope who doubts. And then he goes on to say, a Pope who sins and asks for forgiveness. And he's like, let us pray for a Pope who's fallible. Let us pray for one who makes mistakes and seeks to correct mistakes, that admits when mistakes are made and seeks to correct them. And it's like, oh, he wasn't supposed to say that. He was supposed to say something that was very politic and very like unifying and bringing all these schools of thought in Catholicism. That do we let women have more of a role in certain things, or do we diminish their role? Do we let them have like higher status or not? Do we acknowledge that the LGBTQIA plus society exists, or do we not? Do we allow like all of these things? And it's like, and he's supposed to say something that's like blasé and just brings everybody together, kumbaya, la la la. And instead he says something divisive, and incendiary, and it's on live TV. He said it to the world, and immediately once the doors of the conclave are locked, they're like, dude, what did you do? And this book had plots and secrets, and everybody is up to something. I don't want to give away the ending, because the ending, I listened to this as an audiobook. It's about 288 pages in paperback or ebook, I'm not sure which, but it's about 8 hours on audiobook. I got it through the Libby app through my local library. And the ending, I just listened to it, and I listened to the credits, and it played itself out until they were silent, and I was just staring at my phone like, oh my goodness, he went there. Like, I should have seen something like that coming. Like, not, well, actually, no. How could I have seen that coming? This guy, the author, Robert Harris, was actually granted private access to some of the locations that are featured in this book, in the Vatican, that are sealed off from public people, that only people involved in getting to elect the Pope, only the College of Cardinals and the people that help him out, like the cleaning crew nuns and like the rest of them, get to see. And he got to see it, and I'm like, that's really cool. But then to have this ending is like, I wonder if he still has that sort of access because of what he put in the ending. So, have you read Conclave? Did you see the movie? Does the movie hold up to the book? Should I watch the movie? Because the book was good. This book is a solid 4 of 5 stars. It was a little boring in places because it goes over everything in detail, and it's like, okay, wait, and these are the words you have to say, because Catholicism is a religion of devotion and tradition, is how I've heard it put. And he's trying to explain the tradition and the devotion to a lay audience. And I think he does a really good job, but it's a little boring in places to people who already know some of it. And it's like, yeah, I know the cardinals and I know the hierarchy and I know this, that, and the other, but he's explaining it in great detail for people who don't. And that's a good thing. That's good writing. It's just, it was a little boring for me in places, because I felt it could have been a little punchier in places, but overall it was good. Not great, but good. 4 or 5 stars. The ending is really what saved this book from being a 3-star book. So, have you read Conclave? Should I watch the movie? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.